Alright, big idea number 1, unknown angles. So finding unknown angles given certain pieces of information. So vocabulary, label the lines and the rest of the unknown angles below. So I gave you one obtuse angle, and you should know that already that with parallel lines, when a transversal cuts them, every obtuse angle is congruent to the rest of the obtuse angles, and all the acute angles are also congruent. So if this is 120, and this is another obtuse angle, not only is it obtuse, but these two are also vertical, this must be 120. This is another obtuse angle, so it has to be 120. And this is another obtuse angle, so it has to be 120 degrees. So vertical angles are across from each other, and obtuse angles are also congruent. Now, since these two, focusing on these two, this one and this one, they sit on a line, which would make them a linear pair. So going from here to here should be equal to 180 degrees. So if this is 120, this has to be a 60. And just like the obtuse angles, all of the acute angles are also congruent. So this is 60. Vertical angles means that this is 60. And vertical angles means that this is 60. Again, vertical angles and angles that are directly across from each other, if you can connect them with your pencil, then they are congruent. Alright, now it says right here, use the diagram above to list all the examples you can find for the following terms. For the angles, state whether or not they are congruent or supplementary. So supplementary angles, we can list a lot of these. We could list the same side interior angles, or we can list linear pairs. So I'm just going to list a couple. The linear pairs I'm going to list are angle 3 and angle 4, angle 4 and angle 2, angle 5 and angle 7, angle 5 and angle 6. Those are all linear ones. Now, I'm going to stop right there, and I'm going to move on to complementary angles. So, what are complementary angles? Complementary angles where you can make the C out of complementary angles into a 9. So complementary angles measure 90 degrees. Well, I don't see any 9-degree angles in here, so I'm just going to write the definition of complementary angles, which are angles whose sum is 90 degrees. Okay, so if I add two angles together and their sum is 90 degrees, then they are complementary angles. Now I know I didn't mention what supplementary angles were, but we can make the S in supplementary into an 8. So supplementary angles are angles that add up to 180 degrees. Next we have to list vertical angles. And vertical angles, like I said, are angles that are directly across from each other. So an angle that you can connect, put your pencil on. So these are vertical, these are vertical, these are vertical, and these are vertical. I'm going to list the vertical angles, angle 2 and angle 3, angle 5 and angle 8, angle 7 and angle 6. Okay? And vertical angles are congruent to one another. Alright, next up we have exterior angles of a triangle. Since there's no picture in here, there is not any exterior angles. So I'm just going to draw a picture that would represent exterior angle. Okay? So a triangle has three angles, 1, 2, and 3. And the exterior angle is the one on the outside. Alright? So that's an exterior angle, this one right here. So angle 4 is an exterior angle. Okay. Next, parallel lines that are cut by a transversal. Now I just realized that I didn't label the lines like it said to up here. So I'm going to go ahead and label my parallel lines, and I'm going to label my transversal. Now when we label lines, we use a lowercase letter, and when we label points, we use an uppercase letter. So I'm going to name my transversal as line S, and I'm going to name this one right here line R, and this one right here is line RS, I guess T. Okay, so our two parallel lines are T and R, and our transversal is line S. Alright, so parallel lines cut by a transversal in this picture are line T and line R. Alright, corresponding angles. Now corresponding angles that are in the are angles that are in the same position on their line, on both their lines. So looking at this picture, if I list corresponding angles, a pair would be angle 3 and angle 7. Another pair would be angle 4 and angle 8. Another pair could be angle 2 and angle 6. Now we should know that corresponding angles are congruent to one another. Okay, so it would make sense because if you look at this picture, since I listed angle 3 and angle 7, notice they are two acute angles, so that makes them congruent. Angle 4 and 8 is the exact same thing. Those two are also congruent. Alright, so corresponding angles are angles that are in the same position on their line. So again, looking at 3 and 7, this one's on line R and it's above or to the left of the line, and then line 3 or angle 3 is also to the left of the line. So left, left, right, right. Okay? So again, corresponding angles are angles that are in the same position on their line. Alternate interior angles. Alternate interior angles are congruent. And when I go through this picture and I list them, I can list angle 4 and angle 5. And I can list angle 2 and angle 7. Again, alternate meaning they're on opposite sides of our transversal, which is line S. They're on alternate sides, but they're on the inside of the two parallel lines. Alright? Next one, alternate exterior angles. Those are also congruent. So if I look at this picture, it would be this one right here, the 120, which is really angle 1 in the picture. So angle 1 and angle 8, as well as angle 3 and angle 6. Alright, last but not least, we have consecutive same-side interior angles. Those also have to be interior, so inside of our two parallel lines, and they have to be on the same side. So looking at this picture, I would list 4 and 7, as well as 2 and 5. So angle 4 and angle 7, and 2 and 5. Now just looking at the measure of these angles, they're not the same because one of them is acute and the other is obtuse. Now looking at it more specifically, this is 60 and that's 120. So consecutive same-side interior angles are supplementary, or they sum 180 degrees. So this one plus that one is 180 degrees. This one plus that one is 180 degrees.